Alright, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to game number 2 between Sad Gaming BR and F Logic Gaming. Game number 1 went in the pocket of F Logic, and a 75-minute bloodbath ended up being a pretty close match with rapiers on the deck multiple times, and we're going to have our draft, for game number 2 coming underway right now. Already being banned out, OD as well as the Vengeful Spirit for F Logic. And looks like Death Prophet is going to be the first ban out from Sad Gaming. My name is jodinDOTA. Unfortunately, my co-broadcaster, Baby Gains, Wilson Prieto, was not able to join me with game number 2, but big shout out to him for joining me for game number 1. Definitely appreciate the help whenever I can get, especially if I had to talk straight through another 75-minute game. That definitely would not have been on my top tier list of things to do for the evening, at least for my throat's sake. So we're going to try to see what we can do for game number 2. Hopefully it doesn't end up being that long of a match, unless it's going to be as exciting as the previous one. And we are going to wait out the second ban from the side of Sad Gaming BR, as it should be interesting to see what they want to do. I like the ban out of F Logic for the Vengeful Spirit. It just had such a high impact in game number 1 to have to give it away in the second picking phase, since they obviously want to prioritize maybe something like a Faceless Void of their own for their first pickup. I wouldn't be surprised if Lone Druid was banned out by Sad Gaming. They're actually going to take out the Witch Doctor. So both teams banning their own supports from game number 1. And it looks like Invoker is going to be the first snag for the side of F Logic. So we saw how high impact the Bat Rider was in game number 1 with his flaming lassos. And since they didn't ban out that Lone Druid, that opens the option for them to pick it up themselves. And that's exactly what they're going to do. So first pick, Lone Druid for the side of Sad Gaming BR. So we've got a mid laner as well as a either safe or off lane hero for the side of Sad Gaming. And I do believe it was Savage Roar that got nerfed a little bit in the last patch. Can't remember if it was the cooldown reduction of it got nerfed a little bit, and the duration of it. So he's not, Lone Druid not going to be as completely as efficient as he was before at pushing down towers, but still at the same time he still is going to have a lot of ability with that Spirit Bear to put out the damage that he needs to. And we're going to see the Lich pick up from Sad Gaming. So we're seeing a little bit of a role reversal here as Lich gets picked up by Sad Gaming BR. And Faceless Void is going to be a hero of choice for F Logic. So they get 2 of their core heroes right off the bat here. They've got their mid laner as well as their off laner. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some more support ban outs coming from Sad Gaming BR. They could even potentially pick up their secondary support right now after the fact, and even further limit the pool of heroes that F Logic Gaming could have potentially picked up. But I do like the ban out of that Witch Doctor. It allows Faceless Void to get picked up without worrying too much about what supports are going to go along with them. The Vengeful Spirit was already out of the pool. And we're going to see a Morphling ban come out from F Logic. And that's an interesting choice from them. Yes, they don't want to have someone who's capable of instantly relocating himself whenever the Faceless Void blinks or time walks in, since all he's got to do is just hit R and go to the Replicate illusion, and it would just be completely out of the Chronosphere, and Faceless Void would be left with his hands holding the bag. But with picking up 2 of your cores this early for the side of F Logic, you're kind of starting to show your hand a little bit. You know, with the Lone Druid, you can still, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be going for a straight pushing style of lineup. And especially with the Lich, putting the Ice Armor on the Spirit Bear is going to be pretty big as far as its survivability towards the mid and the late game. And we're going to see Jakiro banned out from the side of Sad BR. So they are starting to focus more on support heroes. And I do like the ban out of Jakiro, another hero that has really great synergy with Chronosphere. They get locked inside of that. They're basically eating a good portion of the macro pyre duration from the Jakiro, as well as just eating a lot of damage from just Liquid Fire as well as Dual Breath. So good choice from them in order to take that out. They are going to ban the Slardar for the second game in a row from F Logic Gaming. And the first time around it was because they had the early makings of the potential of a minus armor lineup with that Vengeful Spirit pickup. But now it's most likely just looking like they may have some experience with Sad BR and understand that they have a pretty strong Slardar player. But Faceless Void would most likely be going over in the off lane for them. And it's just going to be a matter of who they want to pick up for their support heroes as well as their carry. And it's Lone Druid that kind of is a little bit more ambiguous as to whether or not he's going to be going over in the safe lane or if he's going to be going in the off lane. And it's not something you really ever see too much, but can be a very strong mid laner with that Spirit Bear as well as his auto attacks. Especially in the early levels, it would kind of force the Invoker to go into a Quasi-Exort build, even though that's mostly what Invokers are going these days is Quasi-Exort. But it definitely pigeonholes them into going for Quasi-Exort, and allows him to start just kind of steamrolling the early game until the Invoker starts getting some levels, as well as something like a Phase Boots up too on top of it. We are going to see Gyrocopter taken out, so second game in a row that we see the Gyro being banned out. Definitely don't want to have to deal with him with the Faceless Void Chronosphere. If you were around for game number 1, we talked about it, where the synergy that you get with Call Down as well as Flat Cannon is just going to be absolutely huge with the Faceless Void and Tandem. And then we see a different pickup, the Sven from the side of Sad Gaming BR. So instead of the minus armor strat, they're going for the plus armor strat, and Sven is going to be able to tank a lot of the damage that he's going to eat, at least the physical damage inside the Chronosphere if he gets caught out. I'm a little hesitant to say that it's a great pick so far, just because they have a lot of utility with only 2 heroes on the side of F Logic in order to try to control the Sven. They have the Chronosphere already from Faceless Void. If he initiates on the Faceless Void, he can backtrack a lot of the burst damage that Sven's going to be bringing to the table when he has God's Strength up by just time walking away from it. On top of that, you have the Invoker with Ice Wall as well as the Deafening Blast that's going to be able to disarm the Sven, as well as the Lone Druid and his Spirit Bear. So you have to be a little bit cautious about what you're picking into this, and they're going to grab a Shadow Shaman for themselves. So another big potential for the team fight ultimate as well as the pushing power, and Sad Gaming immediately answers with a Puck pickup. So that's going to be a Puck versus an Invoker matchup in the mid lane. I like that matchup mostly because Puck is one of those heroes that doesn't struggle too much up against an Invoker. If she's out of position a lot, which from the mid matchup that they had before, I don't think that's going to be the case. Then it can start to swing towards Invoker's favor, but outside of that, Phase Shift is going to be able to get away from a lot of the damage that the Invoker is going to be throwing away, especially with the early levels of Cold Snap. Until he has some few levels over in Quas, it's going to be pretty difficult for him to get enough of the procs off up against the Puck whenever she goes inside the Phase Shift. So they're going to end up using a little bit more of their reserve time for this 4th pickup. I wouldn't be surprised if they picked up another support hero, just so that they don't give their hand away exactly what they're trying to go for with the carry role, and whether or not they're going to be going for, because right now they have the potential for split push. For a pushing lineup. They have the Mass Serpent Wards from the Shadow Shaman, as well as the Forge Spirits from the Invoker, but it looks like they're going to be focusing more on team fighting abilities by picking up that Disruptor with their second snag of the support hero. And that's going to give a nice big old AoE lockdown outside of kinetic field that he can use the Static Storm on whenever Faceless Void drops down that Chronosphere. So it is looking like F Logic is going to be more geared towards the team fighted oriented side of things. Shadow Shaman is going to be useful whenever they do win it. If they do win a team fight, they can start taking towers down very quickly if he hasn't dropped down the Mass Serpent Wards yet. But he's also going to be hugely influential during the laning phase. I mean, Shackles at level 1 and level 2 is one of the longer disables of any level 1 and 2 spell in the game. And being able to use that and just allow your allies to get a lot of right-click damage off in the meanwhile, especially on top of it, Invoker, if he wants to go for Exort first, is going to be able to get a Sunstrike off in that duration too. So it is going to be an Ogre Magi for the 5th pickup for the side of Sad Gaming BR. And it's starting to look like this is going to be an off-lane Lone Druid with the potential to be either a 2-1-2 or a defensive tri-lane with the Sven, Lich, and Ogre Magi in a lane. And that Spirit Bear and the Sven are going to hit really hard late game whenever they have Bloodlust up from him with the Ogre Magi. On top of that, you still have to worry about the God Strength from Sven on top of it too. So it's just down to who F Logic Gaming wants to pick up as their carry hero right now. And they have to mention it would be someone that has some synergy with the Faceless Void. Even something like a Luna might not be the worst idea right now. Just because it's a range carry, gives them the ability to still auto-attack and use abilities outside of the Chronosphere and still be able to connect over on enemy heroes. But I wouldn't even hate... Oh, they're going to go for the Ember Spirit. So this is starting to look a little stranger as far as to what their laning phase is going to look like. It depends on who their mid player wants to go up against with Puck. since that's most likely is going to end up being the mid laner for the side of Sad Gaming. Puck can go in the off lane too, though. She's perfectly capable of doing so herself. Has the escape with the Illusionary Orb as well as the phase shift. She wants to throw the Lone Druid over in that mid lane, but Lone Druid probably not going to do too great up against the Invoker or the Ember Spirit for those reasons that we talked about before for the Invoker. And Ember Spirit's going to be able to burn away a lot of the damage with that Flame Guard up against the Spirit Bear. Granted, that's going to mitigate magic damage, but it's not going to be able to mitigate the physical DPS that the Spirit Bear would be throwing out there. And it does look like it is going to be getting underway soon once we get these guys to go ahead and pick their heroes. They did just have a 75-minute match, so I wouldn't be surprised if some of them were kind of like, we need to go use the restroom real quickly after that last one. So we'll use this as an opportunity to go ahead and break down what is going on and what the lineups are. Over on the Dire side, we are going to have the Ogre Magi manned by Kepler. DHX is going to be playing that carry Sven. Looks like Twitch.tv changed his name in the middle of the match. I can't read the entirety of it, but he's going to be picking up the last hero that's left in the pool. I believe it was, who was it? I picked the Lich. Oh, Puck. So that'll be the Puck player. Lich is going to be played by Huggo, and it looks like PL15 is going to be playing that Lone Druid. So that is going to be their carry, I guess. PL15 was playing the Weaver before, who was their carry in the last match. Either way, it looks like Bring Back Zhao 8 is going to be playing the Ember Spirit. Xiao is going to be playing that off-lane Faceless Void. Disruptor is going to be manned by Elvos Caucello. Samus Prime on your support Shadow Shaman. And Milo will be playing that in mid Invoker. And it does look like we have a little bit of a connection problem too on top of it for the Ogre Magi at the moment. So, I mean, Disruptor says they're ready, but I don't think they're ready. So, not having one of your allies select their hero yet and having a disconnected Ogre Magi tends to be a bit of a problem for them. But yeah, as I was saying, if you guys weren't here for game number one was a 75-minute slugfest between these two teams. Over a kill a minute. Rapier's on deck. Rapier's on board. Didn't matter. Basically, Undyne and Weaver were just passing around a Rapier. Alchemist was walking past Rapiers because he was so 7-slotted that he didn't even want to have the Rapier in his inventory. And unfortunately, F-Logic Gaming ends up taking out a very narrow victory up against Sad Gaming. So, it should be interesting to see exactly who ends up coming out on top of this one in the end. As my entire minimap is starting to glow with the pings of defense on these tier towers. But looking at the laning phase, it's looking more in the favor of the side of Sad Gaming. As soon as the Spirit Bear hits level 2, they're going to be able to get the Entangles off with him. So you're not only going to have the Lich being able to spam out the Frost Blast with Sacrifice, but you're also going to have the stun and disables of Ogre Magi with Ignite as well as Fire Blast. So that's going to be pretty big. On top of that, you have the disable of Sven's Stormhammer. So a lot of disables coming out from the side. Oh boy, my last Ember game was December 10th, 2015. So maybe coming back, maybe not the best decision, but you know, if it works, it works. So hopefully, blue player over there for F-Logic Gaming capable of handling it. But then you think about the side of F-Logic, and you have the kinetic field potentially from the Disruptor. You get a little bit of burst damage from the Thunder Strike. You have the Shackles from the Shadow Shaman that we talked about, and if all the communication, everything's going up to snuff, then you'll also be able to have the Sunstrike from the Invoker to connect with the Shadow Shaman and the Shackle. But the Faceless Void's really not going to be doing too much other than just trying to survive in the early game. And the Ember Spirit might be able to get some stuff going in the mid lane if he's going over there. If they're going to put the Invoker, I doubt they're putting the Invoker in a tri-lane or a dual lane just because he's so dependent on getting levels. But so if he's in the safe lane with the Disruptor as well as the Shadow Shaman, you also have the Searing Chains to combo up with that on top of it too. So that if it's a try-on-try or even a tri-lane on dual lane action, it's going to be pretty strong for F-Logic, but all around wise, it's probably in favor of Sad Gaming at the moment. And checking out these builds, so it is looking like it is going to be the Invoker going into the mid lane as the Ember Spirit has picked up a Stout Shield and 2 sets of Tangos. So he's going to be the safe lane carry. So they definitely don't want to put too much pressure on him since he hasn't played a game of Ember Spirit. And when was it? December 10th, 2015. So it hasn't really been too long. It's only been a couple months since he's played him, but Either way, he's definitely not going to want to be thrown right back into the fire in the mid lane up against a Puck who's going to be able to silence him and escape from all the Syrian Chains combination that he's going to be able to throw at him. And they're actually, we saw it in game number 1 where the supports were TP'd to the tier 1 tower in order to place down an observer ward so that they could potentially get the D ward off. Instead of going for that, though, they're all just grouping up inside the Radiant jungle. And everyone's doing the same thing over here for the Dire side outside of these two guys up at the top rune. So it does look like Puck's going to be able to secure that top rune. And most likely the Invoker will be able to grab himself that bottom bounty rune and will end up being squared even as far as that's concerned. And Faceless Void's already making his way out towards that top lane, so they realize that no one's really going to be contesting too much, and they don't have to try to defend up against the placement of that ward. And Spirit Bear actually is going to spot out the fact that these three guys are down here, so they're going to immediately end up using the shackles over onto the Spirit Bear, trying to keep it locked in place with the Searing Chains as well on top of it, but it's not going to last too long at level 1. Now the Kinetic Field's going to be there, and running into the Creep Wave 2 on top of it. They're going to keep the Spirit Bear around for a little bit with 320 move speed. I don't think they're going to have the availability to kill it again, but here comes Shackles round 2. This will be a big 300 bounty if they can manage to secure this with just a couple more auto attacks, and it looks like Disruptor grabs it, even throws down the secondary Kinetic Field in order to try to make sure that he secures that. But unfortunately for LD, he's going to have another, he does end up getting the resummon over on his bear, and he's just moving over into the jungle. I don't think he bought an Iron Talon or anything to try to do that, but he's just going to be going solo over here in the off lane. Looks like it is going to be that defensive tri-lane of Ogre Magi, Sven, as well as the Lich. And when we talked about that matchup with the Invoker as well as the Puck. So the laning phase starting to pan out a little bit closer to what we thought it was going to be. And this creep wave already starting to stack up for the Puck right now, so this is going to push back behind this tier 1 tower at the moment and make it a little bit harder for her to farm. But Milo on that Invoker taking a lot of damage, and he wanted to get the Alacrity up as quickly as possible, so he doesn't pick up any levels in Quas at the moment, so his regen's going to be replicated to that Fairy Fire he has, as well as the pooled Tangos. And I'll have to give you guys a little bit of the heads up, this game is being played on the BR server, so my lag is a little bit more than it would be on US East, but it looks like Lone Druid is going to end up spilling the first blood as the Searing Chains as well as the Flame Guard is enough to get these allies to the rest of the kills, and they actually ends up dying. Really unfortunate for that. The Lone Druid gets the kill for it on top of it, so a little bit of miscommunication. Disruptor could have potentially taken the aggro from that tower, but it looks like down here in the middle lane, Puck going after the Invoker as well. He ends up eating the Cold Snap, almost ends up dying, but the tower not deciding to switch their aggro over towards the Puck. So a little unfortunate for that Invoker, almost ends up getting the kill on top of his death, but it is going to be the Puck walking away with a 1-for-0 exchange. This does leave some space for the Ogre Magi to come down here, throws the Ignite out over onto the Faceless Void, who doesn't have Time Walk available, so he's going to end up eating all the damage that he takes here. And Puck doesn't have her bottle quite yet that's coming out to her on the Courier, so she can't really do much about the Faceless Void going up against that Ogre Magi. Checking out the CS, it is 10-1 for the Puck as opposed to the 5-1 of the Invoker. He'll start to catch up fairly quickly once he gets some levels over into Exort, and the Alacrity is going to allow him to last hit pretty efficiently too, but the leveling up of this Illusory Orb for the Puck is going to cause a lot of problems for the Invoker, because not only Invoker's two biggest weaknesses in the laning phase is that burst damage from magical damage really hampers his ability to regen. He likes to just take a few auto attacks and use the Quas to start regenning it back up. But on top of that, his incredibly slow move speed, which is counteracted by the movement and maneuverability of this Puck by being able to jaunt over to the Illusory Orb, it's going to be causing him a lot of problems if she starts getting a little bit of a farmer level advantage against him. A nice little hiding spot for the Faceless Void here. Does end up getting caught out by the Ogre Magi, but he's going to be able to backtrack a little bit of that initial damage from the Ignite. This does leave the Ember Spirit to just basically free farm down here in the bottom lane, as the Lone Druid still even has the Observer Ward over in his inventory. Doesn't even put that down quite yet. And that's just going to be able to leave room for the supports for the side of Team F Logic to start rotating around the map as we see the Shadow Shaman moving over here in the mid lane. Faceless Void is going to get caught out again by the Ogre Magi. There's going to be a stun from Sven as well on top of it. There's no stun available from Ogre Magi. He does have a Clarity, but he doesn't have a Mango available. In this mid lane, it's going to be Puck, as the rotation from the Disruptor as well as the Shadow Shaman is going to be enough to secure that kill. And we end up at a 2-2 with 3 minutes and 56 seconds into this one. This Faceless Void is doing a pretty good job of just kind of staying within EXP range. Not worrying too much about the Ogre Magi harass coming out, but if he takes too much damage here, Sven could end up bursting him down fairly quickly with the combo of the two different stuns from Fire Blast as well as the Storm Hammer. And now the Clarity's starting to regen the mana back up with this Ogre Magi. He does have the stun available, and his Lich is going to be sitting back up here in the top lane too. Gets the pull off. He's going to be able to pull that Equilibrium back towards the tier 1 tower in favor of that Sven. Who's sitting at the top of the CS chart, 21 and 11. Meanwhile, the Puck's doing pretty well herself, 21 and 1 for her to the 18 and 8. So Invoker has done a pretty good job of starting to catch up, thanks to the fact that he's got another level over into Exort, as well as doing a great job utilizing the Forge Spirits as well as the Alacrity combination. And Spirit Bear might get pretty close to going down. He's still going to get able to walk away with 400 HP, as the Shadow Shaman just doesn't have enough mana unless he wants to eat that Enchanted Mango and start regenerating it back up that way. But it's just a question of whether or not F-Logic wants to kind of creep Equilibrium right now, or if they want to try to go for the tower push. And the Spaceless Void drops really low, and they're going to try to go for a kill on Ogre Magi. Still has another 100 HP. Stormbolt is going to be there from the Sven. They're going to be able to get the kill on Ogre Magi, but it looks like the Disruptor is going to end up going down as well, as the Salve is going to be popped by the Faceless Void. He's back up to a decent amount of HP. I don't think the Shadow Shaman, with his lackluster mana pool at the moment, doesn't even have enough to cast the Shackles, since he did end up eating that Mango. And Sven immediately doesn't even go for bypasses boots and picks up a Helm of the Dominator. And Ember Spirit actually gets really close to going down. He's going to deny himself over the neutral camp creeps. Realize that Spirit Bear is moving at about 340 movement speed. It was only a matter of time until he ended up getting locked down and carried around. But it's actually going to be the Puck that ends up dropping in the middle lane. Deafening Blast being thrown out by the Invoker, and a nice rotation coming out from the Shadow Shaman, who just got enough mana to throw out that Shackle. Is going to be able to keep that Puck locked in place in tower range and taking those auto attacks from it. But Lone Druid has managed to get himself 12 last hits right now. It's a little bit better than Faceless Void, who's at 5 and 2 or 6 and 2 now for himself. He got himself another last hit. But he's moving himself back over into the jungle is going to be a huge asset to this. He renamed him Gummy Bear. That's kind of cute. So for this Gummy Bear over here to move back over into the Dire Jungle by that Secret Shop and to start to get a little bit of CS where he might not have been able to before, now that they have the addition of that camp over there. Nice dodge from Invoker, being able to move out of the direction of that Illusory Orb. Otherwise, he would have been dropped fairly low. It still has the Fairy Fire available. There's a Dream Coil now up on Puck if he wants to utilize it with a rotation from one of his supports. Looks like Disruptor's going to find out this Satire that the Sven was going to use in order to try to start stacking this camp, since he did go for that early Helm of the Dominator. Sending that Satire all the way from the top portion of the map all the way down to the Ancient Camp. Wants to start to be able to stack that, and Sven actually has picked up 3 levels in Great Cleave. So that's kind of looking like that's his strategy at the moment. Get a lot of stacks off, which they put down the Sentry Ward there, so he's not getting stacks at the Ancient Camp at least. But he's looking to just be able to use the Greater Cleave to just start to burst down these camps that his supports are going to be stacking for him. And it looks like in this mid lane, Disruptor picked up a Haste Rune. He's going to be able to catch out the Puck. And it looks like the Dream Coil is going to be expended, and he ends up getting a very easy kill over onto the Disruptor. Fortunately, there's a little bit of too much burst damage that he wasn't expecting from it. And they actually get another Sentry Ward down for the Ogre Magi. I don't believe this is blocking the camp, so... Oh no, he didn't kill it. He's just TPing out. Oh, that's because he wants to try to go for a kill on the Invoker in the mid lane. Does manage to get so with the help from the Lich. I was wondering why he didn't want to try to get the last hit over onto that Sentry Ward, but just rotates in, gets the Fire Blast off with his little bit of remaining mana, and manages to get the secure the kill over onto that Invoker, who did also get the kill on Puck too on top of it. And so we're 8 minutes and 6 seconds into this one, 5-5, dead even as far as kills are concerned. But it looks like it's about a almost 20 or 1,500 net worth advantage for the side of Sad. And checking out this XP graph, also about a 750 XP advantage for the side of Sad. So no one really pulling too far away in this one. You know, you're just a couple stacks away from being caught back up to even, or just one single tower push. But this Faceless Void, checking out his farm, he does have his Boots of Speed as well as the Poor Man's Shield that he started the game with. And so he's starting to get a little bit more going. Another 700 gold in his inventory. It's just going to be a matter of whether or not he wants to go for something tanky, like it looks like he's going to go for Power Treads at the moment now that he's picked up the Gloves of Haste, or if he's going to go for something like a Mask of Madness build so he can start going for more of a damage output-oriented Faceless Void. And we saw it during the last match between these two teams that the Faceless Void with the Mask of Madness is a Faceless Void that gets bursted down very quickly. And with the amount of the lack of maneuverability he has with Time Walk now, he needs to be able to survive long enough that he can start to either go for a Blink Dagger or that he can get multiple Time Walks off, and in order to do that, you need to have the HP pool necessary to accomplish it. And the Sven has reverted back to his jungle, so he is starting to go for the neutral camp stacks that are being presented for him. He's got the power treads. Invoker manages to secure himself a hand of Midas, but it might be at the cost of his life as the Ogre Magi is rotated over into the middle lane. Disruptor's going to be there as well, has the glimpse available if he wants to send the Ogre Magi back. He's going to get locked in place. He does have the Forge Spirit from the Invoker here in order to try to lower the armor of him, but the late TP coming out from the Faceless Void, Chrono Spirit is going to be expended on the very outskirts of it. Now he's going to try to go for the Puck, who's going to get the kill on the Disruptor. He wants to turn around and get a kill on Void, maybe two. A little bit wary about how much damage output from the stuns that he could potentially end up tanking, since he does have 3 levels over in a time lock. And it's going to end up being a 2-for-1 exchange as the Puck manages to secure that kill on the Disruptor after the Invoker had gone down. Now here comes the Puck going off over onto the Faceless Void, drops him fairly low. He will time lock back a little bit of that damage, but unfortunately the silence connected on both of those heroes, so Shadow Shaman wasn't able to get the shackles off after the fact. But here comes that freshly picked up Hand of Midas for the Invoker. He's going to start being able to accelerate his EXP very much exponentially, and then that's going to allow him to start doing a lot more damage, especially once he puts some more levels over into Exort. And he gets the double Forge Spirits up and ready. And it's going to be a decent amount of split push now that Shadow Shaman's level 6 as well. On top of it, he's going to have those Mass Serpent Wards to throw down with the double Forge Spirits for their pushing potential. And Ember Spirit's got something coming out to him on the courier. Go ahead and check out what it is. So it is just going to be the completed tread. So he realizes that he might get rotated on fairly early on, and wants to make sure that if these teamfight engagements are happening, if he has to be forced to join in with them, that he's not just going to get bursted down immediately by the physical DPS of this Lone Druid and Sven. And they're going to try to get a kill over on this Lone Druid now too, it looks like. He's weaving his way over through to the side shot, but there's 4 heroes down here, and it looks like the bear's going to start going to work over onto the Shadow Shaman. There's going to be a Sunstrike from the Invoker, dropping the Lone Druid down low. They're going to be able to get the glimpse back on top of it too, but the damage output of the side of F-Logic Gaming is just really not that potent this early into the game without having some kind of level or farm advantage. And this is the opportunity for Sad Gaming. We talked about the what their early game potential was going to be, and Sven just throwing out just how strong that God's Strength could be in the early levels as he ends up taking out that Tier 1 tower in the top lane of the Radiant side of the map. So we're 11 minutes and 53 seconds into this one. Sad Gaming working with almost a 5,000 net worth advantage. And this Sven has another 2,400 gold in his inventory after completing the treads as well as the Helm of the Dominator. Just to see whether or not he wants to go for something like a Drums of Endurance or a Blink Dagger, or if he just wants to start working straight over into a BKB so he can deal with the magical damage coming out from the Chain Frost as well as the from the Shackles as well as the Disruptor. But they are going to be able to find Shadow Shaman does end up picking up a Smoke of Deceit, which is going to be wearing out relatively soon. So I don't think he's going to be able to net anything off of this one. But Ogre Magi is sitting in the middle lane, double Forge Spirits up for the Evoker with Cold Snap available. That's basically an ultimate within itself, and he's already hit level 10 right now. Checking the levels, he's actually behind the Sven, and the Lone Druid. So both of those guys going over into the jungle actually resulted in some pretty big dividends for the Sven as well as the Lone Druids. And thanks to the fact that their supports were stacking up the jungle for Sven, he's coming out with a lot of farm. And it looks like he does end up buying something. It's actually going to be a Yasha. So this is going to be a Sage and Yasha. The Arteezy style build of Sven. We'll go for the Sage of Yasha, and I believe it's a BKB after that. But Puck's got herself a Blink Dagger 2 on top of that, so Sad Gaming has a lot of initiation, and there it is. He's going to be able to get off the Waning Rift. It's connected over onto 2 heroes, but now here comes the glimpse from the Disruptor. Brings the Puck back momentarily, but there is going to be the help from the Ogre Magi there in order to try to make sure that she doesn't get initiated on any further than that. And she still has the Dream Coil available if she wants to blink in and go for the Waning Rift Dream Coil combination again. I'm not sure they have any vision of anyone else, but here comes, they're going over on the Invoker, but he's just going to continue to just throw out the Illusionary Orb and then jaunt out to it after the fact. It looks like they actually don't go for the little bottle refill trick, and Faceless Void actually went for a Hand of Midas of his own. So not opting to go for the power treads, wants to turn himself into a carry, recognizing that maybe they're off to a little bit of a slow start for the side of F-Logic, but they've only lost themselves one outer Tier 1 tower. So at that point in time, they're not going to be too worried about losing a bunch of map control right now. If they lose the next team fight and Lone Druid starts to get out of control, that's definitely going to end up starting to bite him in the butt. But here comes the Chain Frost, long-range initiation over onto Invoker, but he's already inside the Ghost Walk. Very quick fingers from him, and here comes the Shadow Shaman Mass Serpent Wards. Looks like he's starting to drop fairly low, but it's going to be the Lich who ends up dying first. Now the Dream Coil being expended onto the solo Shadow Shaman will manage to be able to secure that kill, but the Chronosphere is going to be there from the Faceless Void, locking down the puck. They might have the physical damage necessary, and they even throw down the Static Storm on top of it too, and this is almost certainly going to end up being a tier 1 tower unless the puck decides that he wants to buy back. It's just going to be a matter of whether or not Sad Gaming can parlay that into their own outer tier 1 tower too, and it looks like there is going to be death. No, not quite. Manages to get off the the Fire Remnant for this Ember Spirit, so he doesn't end up going down. This tier 1 tower in the middle lane will end up falling, and 21 seconds on the sideline for this puck. They might even be able to do some more chip damage over to that tier 2 if they want to pursue it. But they might be a little bit hesitant about leaving this Ember Spirit down in the bottom lane, who is going to be going for a Battle Fury build as he's already picked up his Perseverance. And it looks like a Cloak is going to be the first item of choice outside of that the Arcane Boots for the Shadow Shaman. So most likely he's going to be going for something like a Glimmer Cape for himself. He still probably could potentially just keep it as a casual cloak for now and then disassemble the Arcane Boots and then go for something like an Aether Lens on top of it too. So he doesn't necessarily have to go for a Glimmer Cape immediately if he doesn't want to. The Aether Lens is going to be huge, allows him to stay a little bit further out of range of the Sven, so he's not just dying to the cleave damage he might be outputting while he's trying to shackle and lock down someone over on the side. But this tier 1 tower down in the bottom lane for the Dire is going to get quickly demolished. And it looks like no one's going to be able to secure that last hit, but an immediate smoke attempt coming out from the side of F Logic as they're going to go on the hunt and look to see if they can find anyone in the Safari of the Secret Shop area of the Dire side of the map. They might be able to find something here as they see the Lone Druid. Lich is going to be there as well. No ultimate available for him. They do have no Chronosphere as well on top of it for another 30 seconds. Glimpsed back into another Static Storm over onto the LD. He's dropping fairly low. The Shackles is going to be there over onto the Spirit Bear, but it doesn't matter as the Chain Frost now bouncing back and forth between the Shadow Shaman as well as the Ember Spirit. I'm not sure if he has any defensive remnants for him to try to teleport to, but it looks like the TP out from the Shadow Shaman will be successful. Lich does manage to get the kill with the Frost Blast off over onto the Disruptor, and it looks like Ember Spirit, he does use the Remnant over here to the backside of the engagement, but unfortunately they react very quickly and very efficiently, and they manage to get that 3-for-1 exchange. It looks like Sven is going to try to go for this tier 1 tower, but he might end up paying for it with his life as the Cold Snap and the Double Forge Spirits are going to be there. Warcry is going to be in effect for another 2 seconds at least, so it doesn't look like the Invoker is going to have the move speed necessary in order to get that kill. He does have a Yule Scepter. I don't know if he just picked that up from the Courier or what, but he could have potentially have utilized that, but they do manage to get the tier 1 tower deny as Invoker gets the last hit on it. And now back behind this tier 1 down here, there's going to be a Chronosphere over onto 2 heroes for Sad Gaming. They already have lost their Lich. Puck might next be the next on the list. They have no Static Storm, but they do have the glimpse of necessary for that. The Puck is sitting at almost full HP right now. Does end up eating a couple stuns from the Faceless Void. Now we'll be able to get the Illusory Jump, but it's right to the Shadow Shaman with a level 3 Aftershock. Able to secure the kill over onto that Puck. And who knows, we'll see what they want to turn this into. They add the Mass Serpent Wards from the Shadow Shaman, so they could definitely push down this tier 2 tower, or they could even potentially go for an attempt on the life of Roshan, as this Puck is on the sideline for another 30 seconds without buyback this time. And she had just picked up what looks like the early makings of a Yule Scepter, so that's going to leave her without buyback as all 5 heroes for the side of F Logic Gaming are grouping up down towards this bottom tier 2 tower. They found the Lone Druid though. He's in trouble as the Kinetic Field's going to keep him locked in place. I don't think your Spirit Bear is going to be able to save you from this, but they are going to end up using the Yule Scepter as well as the Deafening Blast and the Sunstrike combination in order to secure that kill. And that is going to be a Lone Druid on the sidelines for 45 seconds. That does create enough space for the Puck to be up and ready with the Dream Coil available at the moment. And this tier 2 tower is slated to fall. It's just a matter of whether or not Sad Gaming wants to try to get some kind of initiation on them on their retreat outwards when they do have the ultimate from Lich available. Invoker's going to go for the TP right now. There's going to be a stun from Sven over onto the Ember Spirit. He's dropping very low. Nice Kinetic Field and Static Storm from the Disruptor. Might be able to save the life of him, but he's very slow, so this Remnant isn't going to even get its way down to the below ground Dream Coil is going to be expended over onto him as he ends up falling. TP coming out from the Faceless Void. Can the Ogre Magi get the stun off? And he does. He ends up getting the kill for him, as well as the Disruptor down there for the Sven with that freshly picked up Blink Dagger. Gets within range. Actually, Faceless Void living right now. He managed to backtrack a lot of that damage with the new Time Walk, and he's going to be able to get a little bit more difference between him and Sven. But Sven has Warcry as well as the Bloodlust. He's going to be able to do the damage as well as right clicks. Doesn't even have it on the Strength Treads to get that necessary extra damage bonus, but at the same time, Shadow Shaman maybe a little bit of a tricky spot here. He doesn't have a TP scroll. If they saw him moving over to the side here, he might end up going down, but I'm not sure how far they're going to be looking over there and wasting their time. And this does create enough space. The Invoker, really the only one that was involved over there, that other than the Shadow Shaman, who really still hasn't gotten out of harm's way, but Invoker going to be the only one who was able to get his full TP off and back to the base. So he's now split pushing up here in the top Tier 1 tower. And he's looking to potentially trade Tier 1 for Tier 1. Glyph Fortification is available and will be expended right now. Immediate blink back behind the Tier 1 tower for this one. Actually almost finds the Courier trying to deliver the Shadow Shaman, his Blink Dagger, as well as his Teleport Scroll. And this Tier 1 tower is still not being contested quite yet, but here comes the Puck. And he's going to be able to blink forward and actually just goes for the Forge Spirit. So she's just going to clean that up, take the farm for that. And the Invoker's going to be able to get away scot-free again from this situation. So 20 minutes and 8 seconds into this one. Dead even still the second time we're checking in there. 15-15. Net worth advantage still sitting in the pocket of Sad Gaming as they're working with what looks like about a 3,000 net worth advantage. And EXP a little bit more in their favor, a little more dramatically, almost around 7,500 for them, sitting right around 7,000. So that's quite a bit of a level advantage going in the pocket of of Sad Gaming, as they have a level 16 Sven right now. This is a non-Midas level 16 Sven. And it's just absolutely absurd about how much experience he managed to accrue over inside the Dire Jungle. He is sitting at 3-0-1 though on top of it. That Tier 2 tower is still sitting at full HP. Tier 1 up here did drop down to below 300, and that's going to be the last lanes of outer tier towers they have remaining for the side of Sad Gaming, though, as they've managed to take 3 towers of their own, but it's only going to be those outer tier 1 towers now. And checking out Sven's farm, he's got another 3,000 gold in his inventory after the assertation of that Blink Dagger. So BKB most likely next on his list, not really dealing with any kind of missed chances from anyone, no solar crests on anyone or radiances. So there's the Blink Dagger on the Invoker though, so he picked up after the Hand of Midas the Yule Scepter, then the Blink Dagger. As we said before, Shadow Shaman got his Blink Dagger delivered to him over on that side there while he was hiding out inside the jungle. And the Disruptor has picked up a cloak as well as the Urn of Shadow, or the Urn of Shadows. So, and it does look like the Battle Fury finally finished over on the Ember Spirit at 21 minutes into this one. So his farm is definitely going to start to accelerate ever so slightly now. And once he starts getting that going, that definitely is something that the Sven has to worry about, because another combination with the Faceless Void Chronosphere is that the Ember Spirit can just sit on the outskirts of it and just start throwing out Sleight of Fist after Sleight of Fist. I'll hold my tongue though, because there is going to be initiation over on the Ember Spirit now, and it doesn't matter if you can't even get off a Remnant if the Sven's just bursting you down so damn quickly. He's going to be able to get that kill. An Invoker might have came to the wrong territory. There's a big whiff from the Faceless Void. He's going to completely miss them, but here comes the Sunstrike and Deafening Blast and Meatball combo over onto the Sven. He's still alive, though, and then Aftershock's going to be able to clean him up mostly. And it looks like the last right clicks from the Invoker are going to be there, so despite the botched initiation from this Faceless Void, they still managed to get the kill on both the Sven as well as the Ogre Magi in exchange for the death over on the Ember Spirit. And they need to start working on this Ancient Camp stack, because that, if the Sven walks over and discovers that, it's going to be a huge disadvantage for them to lose it. And it looks like the Invoker might actually end up dropping down on this one. Puck might be able to get the last right click, but she can't, as the secondary Yule Scepter is going to come out. Now the Chain Frost is going to be there from the Lich on top of it. No Chronosphere available, but the right clicks from the Faceless Void is going to be enough to clean up that Puck. Now on the retreat is going to be the Lich. Shadow Shaman blinks forward, but he doesn't have any mana. We'll end up popping the Magic Stick in order to try to get the necessary mana to try to get something going. And it looks like he's going to be able to get a TP off, but the first hit bash from Faceless Void keeps him locked in place, and the Sunstrike's there from the Invoker. He snakes the kill away from everyone else, but he doesn't care after getting away with just about 6 HP. He's not going to be too concerned about snaking a kill here or there, as a 3-for-0 exchange in favor of the side of F-Logic Gaming ends up occurring. I guess you could actually say it was a 4-for-1 if you include the death of the Ogre Magi as well as the Ember Spirit earlier on. And that's enough space, though, for the lone druid to get that 23-minute radiance. So this Spirit Bear is going to start to become a little bit more of a nuisance. And he did also pick up a Hand of Midas on top of it, too. So it's not like he just has a 23-minute naked radiance. He picked up that Hand of Midas, so his net worth is going to start to accelerate a little bit more quickly, too, on top of it. And he's at level 15 now as well, so he's actually looking pretty strong at just 23 minutes into this one. Sven at level 18 himself. Even the Invoker with the Hand of Midas is not even close to that by 3 levels, as the BKB is finally purchased over on Sven. And it would have been a huge advantage in that last team fight if they couldn't get the Yule Scepter Deafening Blast combination off with the Sunstrike and the Meteor. That would have been huge for them in the last team fight. Sven definitely would have died, and he probably would have been able to secure himself a couple more kills. It does look like there is going to be an invisibility rune picked up over on the Disruptor, as the Lone Druid is starting to clean up these ancient camps. They're able to spot them out. They do have a sentry ward over on the Lich. If he switches over to that and drops that down, it's definitely going to be a dead Disruptor. They pop the smoke. They know that someone's over there. He didn't switch over quickly enough to spot out the Disruptor, but it is going to be a wasted smoke attempt, as it does look like the Ember Spirit does manage to clean up that triple stack that was left for him over at the Ancient Camps. Gets another 1,800 gold in his inventory. So you feel pretty good about that, but not Invoker, as he found out the Sven with basically the double damage rune. He pops the God Strength and gets the kill on the Invoker despite all the utility he has. Now Shadow Shaman's joining the fight. He's able to get the kill over on Ogre Magi, and he's a little bit out of position. The glimpse back over on the Sven. A very nice kinetic field and Static Storm is going to be there, but the BKB is going to get picked up and it's going to get popped. The Sven gets a double kill over on the Ember Spirit as well as the Shadow Shaman, and he says thank you for the wards as he starts eating those up. Nom nom nom. He's hungry and he wants gold, and he's getting it thanks to that Shadow Shaman. 3 kills going on the sideline of F-Logic Gaming, only for an exchange of that Ogre Magi, and they have no signs of taking their foot off the gas as they look to take down this outer tier 2 tower. Good fortification is going to be used in order to try to counteract the Lone Druid pushing down in the bottom lane. Here comes Faceless Void, though. He's going to get rooted up. He doesn't have the ability to time walk off a lot of that damage. It's still going to keep him around half HP. His Chronosphere is going to be utilized, but the glimpse back from the Disruptor is going to keep him out of harm's way. Kinetic Field will keep him locked in place momentarily, but another root is definitely going to allow him to get away from this one. But it looks like the negative earn charge as well as the right clicks are going to be enough to take this out. But while that's happening, they lost their tier 2 tower. They're losing their tier 3 tower, and they only have 3 heroes available to try to defend against this momentarily. No glyph of fortification. The tier 3 tower does end up going down, and they're going to go on full-scale retreat now that everyone's back up for the side of F-Logic. And unfortunately, no one back up quickly enough to try to defend against that high ground push. They do end up exchanging their Lone Druid's life for it, but they did a decent chunk of damage to this tier 2 tower, as well as losing their tier 3 tower up here, as well as that tier 2. So big exchanges coming in favor of the side of Sad Gaming. As we look at the net worth chart, it's now dipping back down to around 5,000 once it updates. I'm sure it might even be a little bit more than that. So that's only going to be the 25-minute mark that it's looking at there. But yeah, right around the 5,000 mark. So awesome stuff coming out from them. It looked like they were going to have a little bit of a struggle once the Invoker started to get some items up, and the Faceless Void picked up his Hand of Midas, who does manage to pick up an Agnum Scepter too. So that's actually going to be a pretty big deal, that he's only going to have that 60-second cooldown on Chronosphere. Allowed him to fight a little bit more often, at least as often as the God Strength is going to be up for Sven, even 20-second overlapping time where it won't be. So they can start bringing the heat over to the side of Sad Gaming, and despite the fact that the Sven, when he has God Strength up, is just going to be almost unbeatable as far as his damage output is concerned, they can start taking some of these team fights away from the side of Sad Gaming now that their item and their farm is up to snuff. And they're going to be able to find out this Ogre Magi. It's just a question of whether or not they'll get the kill on the Lone Druid too, as Shadow Shaman blinks forward and gets the Hex onto him. Ogre Magi is going to die over in the trees, but the Shadow Shaman Mass Serpent Wards are going to be there as they drop the Deafening Blast as well as the Chaos Meteor over onto the Lone Druid. They get the kill on him. They get the kill on the Tier 1 tower, but they're doing it at exchange for Roshan, as Sven is sitting inside the pit. He's well on his way to having the completed Assault Cuirass. Just needs about another, looks like 1,300 gold to have that finished. But this Tier 2 tower now is going to come under pressure from the side of F-Logic Gaming. They need to get some TP rotations in here, and they only expended the Mass Serpent Wards in order to get those 2 kills. So they still have the Static Storm as well as the Chronosphere on the Disruptor as well as the Faceless Void. They do end up getting that Tier 2 tower, so they get 2 kills as well as 2 outer tier towers in exchange for the Aegis going over into the pocket of the Sven. Actually, he didn't even end up picking it up. Who took that one? Did Puck take it? Yeah, so Puck ended up taking it. He picks up a 4-staff too and is now going to start going for an Agnum Scepter upgrade for that Dream Coil so that it can end up piercing the BKBs of the Ember Spirit as well as the Faceless Void when they pick it up. And I like this choice from the Ember Spirit to pick up the Lincoln Sphere right now, as it's going to definitely allow them, it's going to cancel out a lot of the abilities from the side of Sad Gaming. It's mainly the Storm Bolt from the Sven, which has absolutely been wreaking havoc for this Ember Spirit for the most part. On top of that, you're going to be able to cancel out the Fire Blast from the Ogre Magi and the Chain Frost and the Frost Blast from the Lich. So it's going to be a big pickup. It's not going to further his damage output too significantly, but it's absolutely going to allow him to survive a lot more than he would have before in these teamfight engagements. And checking out this Ogre Magi, he's picked up an Agnum Scepter of his own as well on top of it. And so he's going to have that Unrefined Fire Blast secondary ability. Eats up a ton of his mana pool. As you can see, 669 mana to spend that now. At the same time, he's always going to have that available. So he always has a stun now. And that's going to be a huge asset in these upcoming team fights. And it looks like this Tier 2 tower in the middle lane is going to be the next targeted choice for the side of Sad Gaming, as they have dropping it pretty low with the Spirit Bear, the Gummy Bear. I forgot to rename that one. Sven just walks in, gives him a little assistance, and the Lone Druid still manages to secure that last hit. But now they have the potential to move up onto the high ground, which they are going to end up doing. Sven already utilizing his blink, so he can't blink initiation on the Disruptor, and the Mass Serpent Wards are going to get dropped down, but here comes the Puck with the blink and the Dream Coil, as well as the Waning Rift. Shackles is going to be there over onto the Sven, as well as the Glimmer Cape, keeping him alive momentarily, but the Sven is already cleaning up most of these Mass Serpent Wards, but the Chronosphere is going to be there from the Faceless Void, locking him down momentarily, but the Chain Frost from the Lich is bouncing back and forth, causing a lot of havoc, especially for this Ember Spirit, who can't get involved with the fight if he doesn't have the ability to get out those offensive remnants, and it's just bouncing everywhere, all over the place, as the buyback has to come out from the Invoker. He's the only one to go down so far on the side of F-Logic Gaming, and now they're on the retreat for Sad Gaming. They do have the Yule Scepter in about another few seconds. Cold Snap is going to be on the point as well. Shackle is going to go over onto the Puck, dropping her low and be able to take her out. Now they have to deal with the secondary life from him. They need the necessary lockdown to get the kill, and he's going to be able to get the Waning Rift off. There is going to end up being the blink afterwards. The Ice Wall is not going to be enough to get that kill. Nice Tornado coming out from the Invoker, not able to jaunt over to that Illusionary Orb. Will be able to get off the secondary Yule Scepter on himself, so the Sunstrike is not going to be on the mark, but it doesn't matter, as it looks like the Ember Spirit's going to be able to go on a killing spree. They cleaned up the Puck, the Lich, as well as the Sven throughout that, but they do end up losing their melee barracks on top of it too. So all the meanwhile this is going on, Lone Druid down in the bottom lane. Looks like he's going to be going for a Pipe of Insight. He's already got the Ring of Health, the Headdress, and the double Ring of Regen. So he's going to go for a Pipe of Insight after the Radiance. Not the pure damage output build that you normally expect from a Lone Druid, but if they need the utility, they need the utility. They have to deal with the Invoker in some fashion, as well as the Aether Shock and the Static Storm coming out from the Disruptor and Shadow Shaman. So it's something they definitely have to be concerned about, and the Spirit Bear already is capable of going toe-to-toe up against the Shadow Shaman right now. He's going to end up using the Shackles. With the Ogre Magi and the Lone Druid actual hero coming up from the other end of this engagement, he might end up being in trouble, but the Invoker's here to try to help his little buddy out. He's going to find out the Ogre Magi first. We'll end up expending the Yule Scepter as well as the Ice Wall. Chronosphere is going to be there from the Faceless Void. Now he could end up using the Meteor if he wants to try to expend it, but the Ogre Magi not dying too quickly. There's going to be a Tornado on the backside of that in order to try to secure the kill over onto the Lone Druid on top of it, but it looks like the Shadow Shaman's going to end up dying to the Ogre Magi himself, or actually Lone Druid with the Spirit Bear manages to get it with the Radiance Burn. Now here comes the Sven with the BKB popped already, and it looks like the Faceless Void in a little bit of a tough spot here, as he's going to be able to juke around a little bit inside this tree line. Sven is going to have a stun in about another 10 seconds, but the Yule Scepter is going to be there over on the Faceless Void, has another Time Walk, goes to the other side of the trees. Is he going to get away from this one? It's only going to be the Puck chasing after him in the moment. He's going to have a Yule Scepter in a few seconds, but this Faceless Void dodging out a lot of this damage with the Time Walk ability. Glimpse is going to be there out over on the Puck. He will be able to phase shift out through most of it, it looks like. Actually still gets sent back. It looks like Sven's might be able to get a kill over on the Disruptor. Stormbolt's going to be there in a second. We'll be able to connect. Faceless Void Time Walks down to the low ground, but there's going to be a nice Glimmer Cape usage from the Disruptor on himself. And it looks like he might have to drop down that Static Storm if he wants to be able to survive, but it doesn't matter as Puck blinks forward and uses the Waning Rift in order to secure that kill. And does end up being a 3-for-1 exchange, but here comes the Faceless Void, gets a nice Chronosphere in order to get the Puck on the back lines of that, but I don't think that they have the damage output in order to try to facilitate this gank, as the Lich is going to be there with the Chain Frost on top of it too. And it does look like they are going to end up having to back off. This might have stopped the potential push up onto the high ground of this tier 3 tower, but with the Invoker on the side for 31 seconds, and the Disruptor does have buyback, but he's dead for 34, they might want to try to force these buybacks out from the side of F-Logic Gaming, which they will be able to successful in getting the first one, as well as the Mass Serpent Wards, and we'll be able to get the long-range Shackle thanks to the fact that the Shadow Shaman was in position for that, but there's no more follow-up damage from the rest of the side of F-Logic Gaming. And it looks like they're going to expend both the buyback on Disruptor as well as the Mass Serpent Wards to stop this push on the Tier 3 tower, which did end up losing about over half of its HP anyways. And nice little convenient regen rune down there in the bottom rune spot for whoever wants to go snag that. But Sad Gaming, they're not even showing signs of stopping right now. They have 3 heroes grouped up down here waiting for someone to come out and try to farm the creep wave. And if they do, they're dead, because Sven still has God Strength available, has that completed Assault Curse as well as the BKB, down to 8-second charges on that. But checking out the Spaceless Void, he picks up an Eagle Song, so Butterfly not too far away for him, unless he wants to go for a... I doubt he's going to go for an E-Blade, but I guess it could give some potential solution to the Sven, but he probably would have gone for the Ghost Scepter first if that was going to be his objective. So it's going to be a Butterfly coming out from him pretty shortly. And the puck not quite completed with that Agnum Scepter quite yet, unless that's what's coming out on the curve. It's actually going to be a completed Maelstrom for the Spirit Bear for Lone Druid. But this Tier 3 tower already getting taken down. They will be able to stifle it momentarily with the Shackles, and a big Chronosphere will be able to connect over onto 3. They might be able to clean up the Spirit Bear before it can get the kill on it, and they will end up getting that kill. But it looks like the TP out from the Shadow Shaman might be successful after the Dream Coil comes out from the puck, and a Static Storm is also going to get dropped down, but Sven just walks out of it with the BKB, gets the kill over on the Faceless Void, who doesn't have buyback, defensive remnant back from the Ember Spirit. Invoker's going to be able to use his Blink Daggers in combination with the Yule Scepter to make it silly to safety, but Shadow Shaman's not going to be as lucky as he ends up getting taken out. Deafening Blast is going to be thrown out towards the Sven in order to try to stop him from right-clicking over onto the barracks, and there's going to be a Stormhammer thrown out as well, but a nice glimpse coming back from the Disruptor, keeping him locked out back from the base. Here comes the Meteor, and the no Deafening Blast to follow up with that in order to try to disable him for a further amount of time. Now Puck getting involved with this is going to be able to get the Jaunt out. He will be able to do so before the Searing Chains can be used from the Ember Spirit. But a big glimpse back is that's the end of Sven, baby. He just says, you send me back, I'm going to start swinging my sword at you, as he tries to get the kill on Disruptor. Now he turns this direction over towards the Ember Spirit. They need to kite him around. If they can manage to do so, it'll be a huge success for them. Last right clicks from the Invoker is going to be able to kill that Sven, but it looks like the Ember Spirit might be in a bit of a pickle back there at the base. He is, as the Puck ends up getting over involved with this. She ends up paying for it with her life. But it's going to be a buyback over from the Sven. They've lost that middle range of barracks. They've lost the top lane of barracks. Lone Druid just doing so much split pushing while all this is going on. And unfortunately, they're up against Mega Creeps right now. And I don't think that F-Logic Gaming has any answer for this, as they do end up calling GG well played. And they let that Lone Druid just do a little bit too much of whatever he wanted up there. And while that entire teamfight engagement was going off. And that Sven, with the early Helm of the Dominator into the Treads and Blink Dagger Sanjin Yasha build, was just a little bit too much for the squishy players of F-Logic Gaming to survive through. And it looked like they might have had a little bit of a ray of hope up towards that Tier 2 tower in the Radiant offlane. Gets stifled immediately by the BKB grab of Sven. And unfortunately, he ends up going 10-3 and 3, 9-8 and 8 for the Puck. Looks like 7-3 and 12 for that offlane Faceless Void, so he definitely came back and started to perform despite that hard start that he had. When we checked in with him early on, he still only had 5 last hits. Unfortunately, that safe lane Ember Spirit, the December 25th of 2015 was the last time he played Ember Spirit. Unfortunately, it starts to show a little bit here, just not getting anything going so much. Had to go for that defensive Lincoln Spear as a second item purchase, and unfortunately, Sven was just such a high level early on in the match, wasn't able to compensate for that, so unfortunately, it does look like it is going to go for a 1-to-1 trade as far as these two games are concerned. Sad Gaming ends up taking game number 2, F-Logic game number 1 in that 75-minute blowout. This one only a 36-minute and 19-second match, so not quite the excitement that we had in game number 1, but either way, good performance from both teams, managing to take one away from each other. And this is going to do it for me for the evening for the joinDOTA League. This is going to be that match between Sad Gaming and F-Logic. If you enjoyed the cast, make sure you follow me over at twitter.com/YaManDota, as well as follow me over here on Twitch so you can find out when we're going to be streaming some more jDL action. Otherwise, guys, I really appreciate you all stopping in. I apologize for the little bit of a lag issue that we were having there, just because we are connected to the Brazil servers right now, so I don't really get the best ping over to that, so unfortunately, that is going to do it for today. We will be back tomorrow with some more jDL action. Otherwise, thanks so much for tuning in.